been a while since we've done one of these. What's going on, everybody? Today, we're going to talk fasting for rapid fat loss. And we're going to do this in a Q&A fashion. You see, I get a lot of questions from you guys in my comment section, in my DMs on Instagram, and via email, specifically as it pertains to fasting. So today, we're going to talk about some of the most frequent questions I get on fasting. But let's set the stage here. When I talk about fasting for fat loss, I'm not referring to intermittent fasting as in a 16, a 17-hour daily fast. No, I'm not even talking about my 1 meal a day diet, which I've done for the past 5.5 years, almost 6 years now. No, I'm talking about prolonged fasting. I'm talking about strategically inserting a 36 to 48 up to 72-hour fast for body recomposition. There are a lot of benefits to fasting that are outside of just physical transformation. A lot of mental benefits, a lot of spiritual benefits that we're not gonna get into in this Q&A, because then we would sit here for hours. We're gonna focus on body recomposition here. So the first question is how to employ fasting for maximum fat loss. Before I get this one out of the way, I'm going to read these questions and answer them, but at the end I'll also open up for some Q&A here with you guys. So if there are any questions that I do not address here, questions that you have about fasting, about fat loss in general, you can drop them here in the chat. What's up, Chris? So, how to employ fasting for maximum fat loss? A couple of things here. As I've alluded to in the introduction, is I would not have you do short daily intermittent fasting. I would have you go straight to prolonged fasting. The sweet spot for prolonged fasting, when we're talking body recomposition, when we're talking tearing body fat off you while keeping metabolic function high, keeping your muscles fueled, sweet spot is anywhere around the 40 to 45 hour mark. So I like to do anywhere between 36 to 48 up to 72 hours of fasting. Here's the key part, brothers. Do not insert these fasts if you are doing keto, if you are doing carnivore, if you are counting your calories, trying to keep them down low. That defeats the purpose of fasting. Your habitual diet should be very liberal. Your nutritional protocol should be one that allows you to eat the right foods in the right amounts for you, for your lifestyle, for your goals. So that means that if you're already pursuing some kind of restrictive diet, I would not recommend fasting whatsoever. This is restrictive enough as is. So sure, eat clean, eat properly. I'm not telling you to eat a bunch of trash and then fast. No, I'm telling you to have some sense of discipline over what you eat. Protein dominant diet. A lot of minimally processed whole foods that make up your diet, but no restriction to the amount. Allow yourself to eat to satisfaction. Allow yourself to eat enough so that you can perform at your highest level physically and cognitively every single day. Then and only then would I recommend you introduce these fasts. And over the last couple of years, I've been telling you guys on a regular that I eat a very liberal, very high calorie diet. And I pull no punches about it. I don't eat perfectly clean. I don't follow any diet or macro system. Low carb, low fat, low anything. No. I eat a protein dominant diet, but I eat everything. You'll see me eat ice cream, just like I did yesterday. You'll see me eat cookies. You'll see me eat burgers, pizza. You'll see me eat all the good stuff. But my regular diet is pretty clean, is mostly whole foods, is pretty high in protein, again, and very little room for trash food in my diet. It simply doesn't serve me. So why would I even indulge those low level desires? And then with that diet, that habitual diet being solid, being high enough in calories and proper in terms of your macro balance, then you would insert one, two, up to three prolonged fasts every single week. If you're somewhat heavy, you can be more reckless. You can throw three prolonged fasts at your body, and still see great results without much downside to it. So you're gonna feel great and you're gonna lose body fat at a rapid rate. But for most people, especially when we're talking those people who are somewhat close to their ideal body composition, then no, you want to be a lot more conservative about it. You don't want to do what I did in January, which is alternate day fasting for 6 weeks. No, you want to insert one or two prolonged fasts every week. If you're somewhat heavier, like I mentioned earlier, you can do three prolonged fasts every single week. Now, the important part is to always return to a liberal diet where you give your body enough of the right foods for your lifestyle and goals. This is essential. This is critical. If you're not going to do that, don't even bother with fasting, because the results are not going to be there. You're just going to get smaller, going to get weaker, you're going to feel miserable, and you're going to blame little old Vic for your demise, saying that, oh, I heard about this YouTuber talk about fasting, and then I fasted and I felt like, you know what? I told you. Habitual day-to-day diet has to be somewhat high in calories. Certainly has to be somewhat high in protein. Otherwise, you're not going to see the results that I speak of on this channel. Next question is very common one as well. Is muscle loss a concern with frequent fasting? Yes and no. You guys know I've done one meal a day for almost 6 years now, and I've employed regular frequent fasting for almost 6 years now. 2020 is really when I went all in with the fasting, intermittent and prolonged. And over the course of these 6 years, I did run into some body composition problems, if you will. I did lose some muscle because I did not return to a high enough calorie diet, and I didn't eat enough protein. That was the only thing. For you, however, there's another thing that I need to mention, and that is training. You have to stimulate growth and muscle retention during a fast. You have to be training your balls off, whether you're fasting or not. It's a given. Training intensity has to be high. You have to consistently push for better numbers, more weight in the gym, or more reps in the gym. That's a given, a no-brainer. Then when you do introduce these fasts and you're not reckless about it, but you actually follow the system that I'm giving you, you will see that you're not losing any strength, any performance in the gym. You're not losing any muscle. You're losing pure body fat. Even though experts are telling you that fasting causes muscle loss, fasting lowers your metabolic rate, fasting does this and that. Not true, brothers. Not true at all. If you're following the rules. If you're under eating and fasting, sure, you're going to lose some muscle. If your training intensity is lacking or you're simply not training because, oh, I'm fasting, I'm just going to lie in bed for 2 days and wait for this to be over, you're going to lose muscle mass. Which brings me to another point, which is somewhat related. And that is, you want to keep your activity high as you fast. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they're fasting is that they bring their daily activity down. They don't move around, they don't train, or they're not training nearly intensely enough in the gym because, oh, I'm fasting, I got to take it easy on my body. No, go hard. Your body was built for these extremes. Go hard. What you're going to notice is not only are the results going to be better, you're also going to feel better as you fast. The fasting length is going to go by so much smoother. It's almost like you forget you're fasting when you're keeping active, when you're doing stuff, not just physically, mentally as well. When you keep busy, the fasting is going to be much easier to do. And it's going to be much more likely for you to adopt this as a lifestyle habit. And this is what it's all about, lifestyle, bro. We're not talking about short-term results here. So muscle loss is not a concern if you keep that intensity high in the gym, if you stay physically active throughout your fast, and if you always return to a diet where you're eating enough, all the macronutrients, all the food groups, enough calories and enough protein. You want to have that protein focus when you're eating. Very, very important. Another question. How to break a fast? This is one I get almost every week. Somebody asks me how to break a fast. And I guess it comes from a place of just consuming too much content online where, again, these so-called experts tell you that you have to break your fast a very specific way. Otherwise, you're going to wreck your metabolism, or you're going to acquire some digestive disorder, or, whatever other side effects people come up with. Fact of the matter is, with these short fasts that I recommend on this channel, 36, 48, 72 hours, it does not matter how you break your fast. It doesn't. You can hit up your favorite sushi spot. You can hit up your favorite burger spot and break your fast like a fat pig. You're not going to die. You'll probably feel like a king right after. However, if you want to do it, ideally, let's say, or optimally, if you want to break your fast in an optimal fashion, focus on protein, on fruits and vegetables. You do not have to break your fast with some bone broth and then every hour afterwards introduce more foods. Bro, don't waste your time. Just break it with a proper meal that is high in protein, it has sufficient calories. If you want to go the safest route, you can break your fast with some raw fruits and vegetables, like a salad or just a couple pieces of fruit, and maybe some fermented vegetables or fermented foods in general, like some pickles, some kimchi, or some kefir, which I love. So you can do that if you're anal about it. The fact of the matter is, it does not matter. Your body will be so happy with anything you give it, and the fasting will enable your body to process food, any food you give it, at a much higher level, much more efficiently. Nutrient partitioning will be amplified. So anything you give it, the body will make the best use of it. So don't micromanage. Don't stress about the details. Eat your protein, eat some fruits and vegetables, eat some starchy carbohydrates, eat the foods that you like in the right amounts for you, for your goals. So protein, fruit, vegetables. That's how you want to break a fast. Protein is, make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. I've made the mistake in the past, be the first to admit, that I would frequently tell you guys, you know what, protein, yeah, it's very important, but it's not that important. You don't have to eat a high protein diet. You don't have to get, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. You don't. I rest my case, you don't. But protein is without a doubt, the most important macronutrient in the human diet. It's not carbohydrates, certainly not fats. It is protein. When we're talking survival, there's 2 essential macronutrients: essential amino acids, protein; essential fatty acids, fat. No such thing as an essential carbohydrate. But if we're talking physical supremacy, body recomposition, there's a certain hierarchy to micronutrients. Protein is number 1. Carbohydrates, number 2, not fats. And then number 3 is fats. There's no good or bad macronutrients. People have this all twisted in the dieting space where they, think fats are bad, or carbs are bad, sugars are bad. You dummy. There's no such thing as good or bad macronutrients. And yeah, while sugar is not a macronutrient, you can still have sugars in your diet and be an absolute machine like yours truly. Get ripped, perform like $1,000,000 physically and mentally, and just never run out of steam. There's no such thing as good or bad foods. There's a too much and there's a too little. Too much sugar, too much fat, too many preservatives and junk chemicals that don't belong in your body, and too little protein, too little fiber, too little minerals and vitamins. That's all there's to it. Do not romanticize your foods. Do not romanticize your diet. Be a lot more practical, a lot more goal-oriented when it comes to your eating. So, protein, fruit, vegetables. Protein, carbs, fats, in that order. Next question, how to deal with sleep issues. So, this is a question I get very often. Sleep issues during prolonged fasting. And I've experienced this myself when I was doing a very high frequency of fasting. Number 1, I would fast too often, then sleep quality suffered. And number 2, I would not return to a diet that was sufficient for my body, specifically when we're talking calories, energy intake. Now, I do not control my calories with an app. I don't give a damn about that. I eat as much as I want to eat every day. However, sometimes I don't eat enough. Sometimes I go through phases where my appetite is not very high and I undereat, and then I still like to keep my fasting regular, so I would throw in these fasts, the 48s, the occasional 72, and then not return to a diet where I would eat enough protein, but eat enough in general. Big mistake. This is the only time when I ran into minor issues with fasting. It's really minor issues. I never went through a bad fasting experience. Never went through a period of fasting like in January where I did the high frequency of fasting and then lost all my muscle or felt like I was dying. The best I ever felt in my 40 years on this planet was in January. The best I felt in all my 40 years on this planet was when I alternate day fasted for 6 weeks straight. So that should tell you something. Even though I wasn't doing everything optimally, giving you the tools to do the fast optimally for yourself, but personally, I just didn't care enough. I ate whatever I felt like eating when I broke my fast, and then I went straight into another fast. At this point in my life, I can will myself to do anything under any circumstances. So my diet doesn't have to be perfect for me to fast. My recovery periods don't have to be perfect for me to hit the gym every single day. I simply run on autopilot. If it's not optimal on some days, I do not care. I do not care. I know if my body does not benefit from this workout or from this fast, my mind will, because I'm reinforcing to myself again that I can do anything under any circumstance. So in January, I dealt with some sleep issues when I was fasting at a very high frequency and I was not eating enough on days that I broke my fast. Brothers, I fasted every other day, and on some days I broke my fast with a 2,000 or 2,500 calorie meal. Certainly not sufficient for somebody this lean, somebody who's already in striking distance, if you will, of his ultimate body composition, of his best, most ripped, most chiseled self. When you're so close to that goal body weight, goal body composition, you have a lot less leeway for error. And then, yeah, you might run into some low energy issues, into some mood swings. You might have some sleep issues every now and then. Keep in mind that fasting is a stressor on the body. With all the benefits that we talk about on this channel, fasting is like a hardcore workout for your body, brother. It's very stressful. Now, as you fast more frequently, more often, as you dial in your diet and your workout program for you, your lifestyle, and your goals, you're going to notice that even though fasting in and of itself is stressful, your habitual stress levels will be much lower. You will feel a lot calmer throughout your day-to-day. You will be a lot more in tune, I guess you could say. You will feel a lot better physically and mentally, even though you're taking your body through these stressful events of fasting and training. So fasting acutely is very stressful on the body. When we're looking at the long view, fasting is actually very beneficial to your body and your mind. So don't stress about it. How to deal with sleep issue? It brings me back to what I mentioned earlier. Stay physically active. Wear yourself out physically to the point where you have to get a good night's sleep. Your body is pooped. There's no food coming in, stress levels are high, but your body is pooped. And you lay your head down on your pillow and you shut off. You're out. This is me during a fast, for the most part. Very few exceptions. So wear yourself out physically. And number two, very important, always return to a diet where you eat enough. You eat the right foods and you eat enough. I cannot stress this enough. I cannot stress the importance of this step too much. You got to eat enough. You got to eat properly. You got to eat enough. Otherwise, you're never going to see the benefits that I saw in January, that I've been seeing for the last 6 years, that my clients see in my program, who get more and more chiseled every week, eating to their heart's content when they do eat. Nobody in my program is eating a low-carb diet. Nobody's eating a low-fat diet. Nobody's doing keto or carnivore or some of that nonsense, brain-dead nonsense. Leave that level one stuff behind and use the tactics that I give them, that I give you, and use them responsibly. So eat enough and wear yourself out physically. Be physically active during these fasts. Very, very important. I'll give you another tip to remedy sleep issues during a fast, and that's to use a little bit of magnesium as a supplement, a powder or a pill, and some sodium as salt 1 or 2 hours before bed. So use a low dose of a magnesium supplement and put a pinch of salt in, a glass of water before you hit the sheets. This can help you initiate sleep and sleep through the night peacefully when you're fasting. It's not going to help when, again, you don't follow the first two steps that I gave you here. So supplements are always the least important solution. They're always the last resort with the least benefit. But for some people, specifically that magnesium could make a big difference if the diet is lacking in magnesium. And another question, or more than a question, but I put it here as a question because it comes up very often. It's more of a critique. Victor, fasting is just calorie restriction. You can get the same benefits that you talk about with fasting by just eating less. No. When we're talking strictly weight management, not talking body composition, weight management, perhaps, maybe, fasting is just as good as calorie restriction. So the calorie deficit you generate by the end of the week might be the same with the fasting as just a regular low calorie or calorie controlled diet. Maybe. Everything else that I talk about on this channel, not even close. And I love this. I love when people tell me this. Fasting is just calorie restriction. Keep in mind, some of the most renowned experts in the field of physical transformation, in the field of fitness and health, say that. And I know whenever they do, they're clueless. I know whenever somebody mentions this, fasting is just calorie restriction, I know they've never done it. They've never done it. And again, I'm not even gonna spend any time talking about all the mental, all the psychological, all the spiritual benefits that you might get from fasting, that you will get from fasting. I'm just keeping it focused on body recomposition. It's not the same. It's not the same in terms of how much muscle you can retain. It's not the same in terms of how you can put out every single day. What is going to happen, undoubtedly, what is going to happen when you restrict your calories every single day. Let's say you're on this, you're using this app to lose fat, and that app is telling you got to eat 2,200 calories and 160 grams of protein. You follow that diet for a couple weeks, believe me, after week 2, week 3, week 4, you will have less energy. Your performance in the gym will be less, and you will feel less and less enjoyment from your diet and from your program. It's going to be more of a question for you. It's going to be a question of discipline, as opposed to just a question of routine. A question of willpower, as opposed to just, hey, this is my life from here on out. I'm going to eat liberally, make good food choices, make educated food choices, but I'm not going to put a cap on my calories. I'm not going to put a cap on how much I get to eat every single day. I'm going to eat as much as I want to eat to perform like a rock star. And then I will not eat for a couple days here and there. I will introduce regular fasting days. This is a night and day difference, brother, in terms of performance, physical and mental, in terms of body composition, in terms of enjoyment of your program, and ultimately quality of life. Because if you're enjoying this program, if you're enjoying your road to a leaner, harder, stronger body, this is going to become your new routine. And that's what it's all about. And then that new routine will produce the best results you've ever seen, inside and outside of the gym, physically and mentally. Best results you've ever seen. How is that comparable with just 3 months of deficit dieting? I gotta eat these 2,200 calories for 3 months because I wanna be in shape for my beach holiday. I mean, yeah, if that's the only thing you know, if that's the only thing you've been taught, then that's still better than being a fat, lazy slob. It's still better than being the fat, chubby guy on the beach trying to keep his guts sucked in. But if you can have it both ways, meaning if you can actually enjoy the process and get crazy results, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you choose that route? I'm giving you that option with the prolonged fasting. So is fasting just calorie restriction? Hell no. Worlds apart. Worlds apart in terms of results and in terms of your enjoyment of the program. You're going to get better results and you're actually going to feel better too and really enjoy this ride. And that's what it's all about. So the only thing where fasting and calorie restriction might be similar in terms of results is the weight management. So how you're able to control your scale weight. That's the only thing. Everything else, fasting undoubtedly trumps calorie restriction. And another question that is very frequent. Let me just take a sip of this water. Another question I get with fasting is how to start. Victor, how do you start? And this one's very simple. Listen closely. How do you start adopting this fasting lifestyle? How do you start doing regular prolonged fasts? You simply stop eating. Pull the trigger, never look back. This is the beauty about fasting. It will teach you discipline. It will teach you follow through on your own word like nothing else. Brother, when you're able to dominate your stomach and your physical desires like this, sky's the limit for you. Make no mistake about it, saying no to food is difficult. It's one of the most challenging things human beings can do. That's precisely the reason why most people are overweight. Why most men today walk around with a pair of tits and love handles and a gut. Because this is difficult. Requires discipline. Requires follow through. Requires a set of balls that are actually still pumping out testosterone. So how do you start? You start. You tell yourself, this is what I'm going to do. I want to be in better shape. I want to be more disciplined. I want to be a man of my word. I want to be a man of action. I want to be a man of results. And you just do it. Are there strategies? Are there crutches you can use to make this easier? Absolutely. Absolutely. Should you rely on those crutches, on those tactics to get through your fasting? No. You should rely on this. You should rely on this. You should rely on this to do the things that you have to do in life. So, is there a perfect way to start this? No. You just stop eating. You start fasting by stopping eating. And you stay hydrated, sure. You drink your black coffee, no sugar, absolutely. Maybe some tea. If you're not into black coffee, you can have some unsweetened tea during your fasts. You can have some electrolytes during a fast. Personally, I never found any need to buy electrolyte packets or electrolyte blends for my fast. I would just sprinkle in some salt into a few glasses every day. And that's it. That got me through my fasts. That got me through very high physical activity during my fasts effortlessly, easily. So I'll just drink my black coffee, a ton of water, and a little bit of salt. That's how I do it. Now, some people, they like to sip on a little bit of bone broth. Some people like to sip on, myself included, some pickle juice occasionally. And yeah, there might be a couple calories in there. You might, get in 20, 25 calories from that pickle juice because there's some sugar in those pickles. Don't matter. You're still going to get tremendous results doing this. Still going to get 90% of the benefits, probably more. benefits that I just spoke about. But don't rely on these crutches. Also, do not be hyper anal when you're fasting and somebody's offering you a piece of gum. Have it. Have those 5 calories. Have those 2 calories of gum. It's not going to derail you. If somebody is making a cappuccino and offering it to you, and there's a little bit of milk, obviously, in the cappuccino, maybe a total of 25 calories, is that going to make or break your results? No. No. Just do the fast. Don't eat until you decide to break the fast. Now, if during the fast you have a couple of calories, you add up to a total of 50 calories. Don't lose sleep over it. Quite literally, do not lose sleep over it. Just understand that you're still going to get the benefits that you're after, even if the fast is not 100% clean. You're not at 0.0 calories. Because keep in mind, even the black coffee that I drink might have, the 2-3 cups of coffee that I drink during the day might add up to, I don't know, 5 calories maybe. Do you think I lose sleep over that? Do you think I break a sweat over those 5 calories? I don't, believe me. I've made this part of my lifestyle. I do not sweat the details ever. I do not micromanage ever. I do not lose sight of the big picture. And when I do, I slap myself upside down the head and refocus. Why is it that I'm fasting? Why is it that I'm watching what I eat? Why is it that I'm working out like a madman every single day? That's what I then refocus on. It's certainly not to be a fasting man. It's certainly not to be the fitness guy in the gym. It's certainly not to be something for somebody else. It's simply for me to achieve the goals that I always had in my heart, written inside my heart by God Himself. The goal is to be ripped, to be strong, to be capable as a man, to be able to defend myself and my people. The goal to be the man that I always needed in my life. That is the goal. It's not to, I got to do this fast. I got to do 20 handstand push-ups. I got to lift this much weight in the gym so I can put it up on Instagram, so I can brag about it online. No. I do everything that I do to become the man that I always wanted to be. And fasting is no different. Fasting will help you achieve those results, those goals in your life. So, another thing that I'm not going to go through all the questions because we're already at like 40 minutes, but I wanted to mention one more thing. And that's, before I get to some of these questions. Fasting is actually easier to do than a calorie controlled diet. Fasting is actually easier than the example that I mentioned earlier, than eating 2,200 calories every day with 160 grams of protein. Fasting requires less willpower to do after you've done it a couple times. It becomes easier and easier, and you actually start looking forward to it. You're never going to start looking forward to a low-calorie diet, to a low-carb diet. And it's been my experience working with hundreds of people over the last 10 plus years. It's been my experience that it's easier for them to introduce regular fasting periods than to just control what they eat, number one, and control how much they eat, number two. Number two, definitely much more difficult. But even just cleaning up someone's diet is very difficult. A lot of people have a very difficult time cleaning up their diets and eating X amounts of calories every day. I can do that no problem. I don't enjoy it, but I can keep myself limited to a set number of calories and a set macro split, no problem. I can do that for the next 10 years. I don't care. But I wouldn't enjoy it. I would not enjoy it. Now, I want you to eat as healthy, as clean as you can. I want you to give your body the foods that it wants to operate at its potential, at its highest level. Absolutely. But I'm also realistic. I know most of you watching this are not able to maintain a high quality diet for 12 months a year. They're not able to make the right food choices day in, day out for the next 10 plus years. And for those people in particular, it's much easier to just eat and not eat. Eat and fast. Eat big and not eat. So, if you think that this is more difficult than just to follow your regular run-of-the-mill diet, you are mistaken. You do these prolonged fasts, the 44, 48, the occasional 72-hour fast. You do these for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You're going to notice this is actually easy. I'm actually enjoying this. I actually feel great. Body is changing in the mirror, and I actually feel great mentally. I'm sharper. I'm more focused. I'm calmer. I'm more content. That's what you're going to notice with fasting, something that calorie restriction can never give you. Now, as you employ these fasts and you make better food choices, like I told you, a protein dominant diet and less junky carbs and fats, better food choices, you're going to notice that, wow, now we're reaching the next level. Fasting got me to a certain level, but now as I cleaned up my diet, reaching the next level. In addition to that, you also want to add a high activity lifestyle. That doesn't mean you work out for hours every day. It means you move your body on a regular. Introduce a high activity lifestyle. Introduce progressive strength training. And then everything comes together. You will look better, feel better, perform better across the board. Inside, and much more importantly, outside the gym. So, fasting is actually the easy option. It's an easier way to get to where you want to go. So don't think about it, stress about it too much. Don't overanalyze it. Don't try and micromanage the process, and just start. So, Serkan, my brother Serkan, how you doing? Is asking thoughts on the new low-fat, high-carb diet. And calories don't matter. Love this. I get excited about questions like this because sometimes I forget what is like trendy, you know? I forget what people's daily questions and struggles are sometimes because I don't have those questions and struggles anymore. It's not because I'm better than you, but it's because I've done this for 20 years. So if I were still struggling with my nutrition, still struggling with my training, I would be doing it wrong. But to answer this question, two-part answer to this question. So low-fat, high-carb diet can work if the diet is, if the food selection is proper, if you're eating enough protein and then you're choosing carbs over fats as your fuel source. Because that's what it is. Protein, like I said earlier on this live, is the most important macronutrient in the human diet. But then you still need an energy substrate. You still need carbs and or fats. You need both, but one of those two has to be the dominant fuel source. I'm not going to go into the details because, we can talk all day about this, but your body is not very efficient at processing high amounts of carbohydrates and fats at the same time. It needs a dominant fuel source because it has a preference. See, if you eat more carbs and less fats, the enzymes in your body upregulate to break down more carbs and fewer fats. If you eat more fats and fewer carbs, the bacteria in your body and the enzymes in your body will upregulate to more efficiently break down and process fats over carbs. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that I want? If it's maximum performance in the gym, you probably want a more carb dominant diet. If it's body recomposition, you probably want a more carb dominant diet. Not a fan of keto. Not a fan of carnivore diets, not a fan of low carb diets. Because I've done them in the past. All they did was make me smaller, make me weaker, make me more skinny fat, and crush my testosterone levels. I thought, just a quick detour, I thought that fats are responsible for producing testosterone in the body. I thought I needed more high cholesterol foods, more high fat foods, so my body was able to produce more of this vital quality of life hormone, testosterone. But it was actually when I brought fats down and I increased my carbohydrates that my testosterone went through the roof. Now, there's a lot more nuance to this, But high carb, low fat is great for physically active people, people who want great body composition, if food quality is proper and you're eating enough protein in your diet. Then you can really decide whether you want to eat more carbs or more fats. And that can look different day to day. It can look different week to week. The only thing that you never want to do is eat high amounts of fats and carbs at the same time and do that for weeks on end. That will make you more and more insulin resistant. So that's suboptimal. You want to have a fuel preference, either carbs or fats. But the second part of his question was, some of the people who talk about low fat, high carb diets are saying calories don't matter. It's all about the macros. It is the same with people on the other end of the spectrum. Low carb, high fat. They say the same thing. No, it's not about calories, it's about carbohydrates. It's about insulin. Fools. Same with the guys on the new low fat, high carb bandwagon. Same deal. Obviously calories matter. Obviously calories are going to dictate how you're going to look and how you're going to perform in the long run. Even the fasting that we talk about on this channel extensively, it's not going to be able to circumvent thermodynamics. So you're still going to have to create a weekly, a monthly calorie deficit if you want to lose body fat and get leaner. It's not going to happen by you just fasting and then eating 6,000 calories on days where you're not fasting. Oh, but Victor told me I could eat as much as I wanted. I just had to fast a couple times a week. Probably not going to work in your favor. Calories always matter. Calories are king, brother. Yes, food choices matter. Yes, activity matters. Training intensity matters. Everything matters. But there's a hierarchy of importance, and calories are king. If you want to gain weight, you have to eat more than you're consuming. If you want to lose weight, you have to eat less than you're burning. And anyone who in 2025 still thinks that they can override physics. They can go around the thermodynamics with their special diets, whether it's fasting, whether it's keto or carnivore, whether it's low fat, high carb. They haven't learned anything from decades and decades of mistakes. Mistakes that other people made or mistakes that perhaps they themselves have made. So, what can I tell you? I mean, there's no issue with eating low fat, high carb. You can make it work with the proper food selection and proper with the proper quantity of food. You can make it work. However, calories still reign supreme. So that is that. When you say protein, is it only meat or other sources? I talk about a protein dominant diet specifically lately because I've made the mistake earlier this year to cut my protein in half. I would say it was a mistake because I did it for too long. So it's perfectly fine to go through short periods where you're consuming less protein, but when you're doing it habitually, when you're doing it as your default diet, it's a big mistake, and you're gonna notice. So when I talk of protein sources, yes, I refer to animal sources, animal protein sources like meat and chicken and eggs primarily. It's not just meat, it's certainly not just beef, but it's all of those that I mentioned. And my favorite is lean, low fat, high protein dairy, like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, because basically it's just a protein food and I can make it taste delicious by adding some fruit, adding some whatever I want to add to it to make it taste great. But it's very versatile and it's very convenient. So I love those protein sources. But I eat a ton of meat, ton of beef, ton of chicken, ton of fish, seafood, shrimp, shellfish. I eat everything. Everything that is high in protein, I eat. I also like some plant proteins like beans and lentils. I love those, but there's a cap. There's a limit to how much of those I can eat because they make me fart like crazy. So, as much as I love my beans and I wish I could just live on rice and beans and eggs because it's dirt cheap, I'm farting my brains out and I'm not getting enough protein with those plant sources. And I don't do supplements. So, unless you're supplementing your plant-based diet, you're not going to get enough protein from those sources. Do you still do OMAD? I do. I do most days fast all day with the exception of maybe one or two pieces of fruit and then break my fast late in the day with a hefty meal. But I also have days, brother, where I break my fast early in the day. I might have like a lunch or a lunch or a brunch with my wife, and then have my main meal still at dinner time. But I don't like doing that. I do that solely to enjoy another meal with my wife. But in terms of performance, especially cognitive, in terms of performance, but even physical. So let's just keep it at performance. OMAD is king. OMAD for me is the GOAT, daily driver. Nothing works better. You see, I have much more energy in my head and in my muscles in a fasted state. Even if I fast long, if it's already been 20 hours since my last meal and I'm about to break the fast, but I decide to still get in another workout, those workouts are the best, bro. The best workouts I have are in a fasted state. There's caveats to it. If you are under eating during your OMAD meal, it's not going to work in your favor. If you're not getting enough protein in during your OMAD meal, it's not going to work in your favor. But for yours truly, it's very easy for me to sit down to a meal at night and, eat 3,000 calories within 30 to 60 minutes. Very easy. And I say 30 to 60 minutes just to tell you how easy this is for me. But it's I sometimes stretch out that meal time at night to 2, 3, up to 4 hours. I don't care about the details. I just want to be my best, my sharpest throughout the day, throughout my client work, my content creation, throughout my, physical endeavors. When I play soccer, which I do almost every day, when I train my body, which I do every day, with very few exceptions, I want to be at my best, and the fasted state allows me to do so. So it's OMAD for me, for the most part, with a rare exception here and there. Yesterday, for instance, was Sunday. I did not work out. I went to church with my beautiful wife, and then after church, I broke the fast. It was like 12:30. We went to this nice restaurant. I had some carpaccio di manzo, one of my favorite things to eat, and I had some ossobuco, probably my favorite meal in the world. I had some ossobuco with some pasta, and then I had a bunch of ice cream for dessert. And then I came home, I fried myself up like 5 eggs with a bunch of beans and a lot of bread and some cheese. So yesterday wasn't a one meal a day thing because I didn't have to perform at my best mentally or physically. I just wanted to spend time and enjoy a beautiful Sunday here with my wife. So, I'm not religious about it, but during the week when I have to be at my best, when I have to perform at close to 100%, I'm fasting throughout the day. Again, brother, with the exception of black coffee, some water, obviously, and 1 or 2 pieces of fruit. I'm fasting throughout the day, and I eat my only meal, a massive meal, when the day's work and training are completed. So, yeah, my brother says, I hear you on the gas with beans. Brother, here in Latin America, people eat a lot of beans. And I've had some Mexican friends here, especially Mexican friends, because they eat more beans than Ecuadorians. So they've been telling me, yeah, just do this or that. Like one of the remedies was, yeah, just drink some oregano tea with your beans and then you're gonna be good. Bro, nonsense. If I eat beans, and I love beans, so I eat quite a bit, I'm gonna be farting my brains out for the next 6 hours, but it is what it is. That's why, again, um, that's why I don't recommend getting all your protein or even large amounts of protein from plant sources, because the same thing happens with lentils, and beans and lentils are some of the best plant protein sources, but the digestibility is trash, bro. Flavor is on point for me personally, but digestibility is trash. Yo, what's up, Custom X? How you doing, brother? How are things? Yeah, one of the comments is, I started OMAD yesterday. It's working well so far. Bro, you have no idea. If you've done this for like one day, that's too soon to tell. One of the biggest pitfalls with the OMAD diet is chronic undereating, people just not eating enough at their meal time, and not getting enough protein or not getting a proper ratio of macronutrients when they do decide to break their fast. It's very important for you to eat enough if you're doing OMAD. And yeah, you can still focus on fat loss as you're doing OMAD, obviously, by controlling your calories and throwing in these fasts that I spoke of, these prolonged fasts, and also just throwing in the occasional very, very low calorie day where you fast all day and then you break your fast just with some protein and vegetables and bring calories rock bottom. This is how I would recommend you control your calories. Again, don't do OMAD on top of, my 1500 calorie diet. It will work initially, but long term, it's gonna leave you feeling deflated, performing like trash, and looking like trash. So, not a fan of using OMAD as a vehicle to lose fat. Not a fan of OMAD as a dieting strategy. For me, it is a lifestyle strategy. It makes my life easier. It makes my days more efficient. It makes my nutrition and my eating much more enjoyable. That's why I do it. The fact that it's easier for me to control my nutrition because I only sit down to a meal once a day, so it's very easy for me to make sure that I eat the right foods in the right amounts. I'm not a fan of using it as a tool to get lean, cut body fat. There's much better options out there. I'm a fan of OMAD strictly for efficiency. So, yeah, what else here? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Somebody's asking if you just became a father recently? Not yet, brother. My baby's on the way. This is probably the last week of pregnancy, and my wife's pregnancy, and then yeah, I'm gonna have my baby. So another question is, what are better options for fat loss if not OMAD? The ones that I just mentioned, brother. Prolonged fasting and very low calorie eating, strategic. And yes, you can do that with OMAD. However, I don't recommend people just bring calories rock bottom and only eat once a day. Not going to work in the long run. You're going to run out of steam before you run out of excess body fat. And this is critical. You're going to run out of energy, run out of discipline to do this before you run out of the excess body fat on your frame. And then you go back to your old ways, regain all the weight that you lost, and perhaps add some additional body fat to that. So again, brother, this is a game that you have to approach with a certain level of knowledge and understanding, a certain level of wisdom, and certainly a certain level of patience. I've been telling you guys that you can move fast when it comes to body recomposition, specifically body fat loss. You can move fast, but you cannot chokehold your body for months on end. So a better strategy is always to eat a liberal diet, brother. Whether that's OMAD or that's 3 meals a day, you eat to satiety every single day. And then only strategically insert prolonged fast. You do your 48s, you do the occasional 72s, and rock bottom calorie days. You alternate between fasting, prolonged fasting, and rock bottom calorie days to generate a weekly, and more importantly, generate a monthly calorie deficit, while always returning to a liberal diet. That's your best fat loss strategy right there. Thank you. Thank you, Matthews. He says, exciting times, praying for safe delivery. Yes, brother. My wife's pregnancy, glory to God, was uneventful, very smooth. You know, she's young, she's very healthy, so it was to be expected. But God is good. God takes care of us. God protects us. God provides for us. And so we haven't had any issues. We found a really nice private clinic here where we're going to deliver the baby in a couple days. And so, yeah, exciting times. I agree. Thank you, brother. Thank you. All right, another question here is, if fat loss is not the objective, but muscle gain or gaining size is the objective, would I still do 1 to 2 day fasts? Yes, brother. Yes. I would do them because for me personally, because I always get slower. I always get more sluggish. I always get dumber in a calorie surplus. That's right. My mind slowly but surely shuts off as I'm eating more and more food. I love to eat. I'm a big eater. I'm a fat kid at heart. as I've been telling you guys for years. So I could eat all day, every day, and be just fine with that. But everything else suffers in the process, specifically mental function, mental health. So, for that reason, if I were trying to gain size, gain weight, I would still do a 48 every now and then, a 44-hour fast, a 36-hour fast, a 24-hour fast at the very least. But I would do so infrequently. Just when I would eat, make sure to eat a lot. I'll train my butt off, obviously, as those two are the main drivers of muscle acquisition, lean tissue acquisition. I would do those two things, and then when I notice my brain slowing down, when I notice my mood taking a hit, I would throw in a prolonged fast. I would not just fast for the sake of it if I'm trying to gain size, obviously. So I wouldn't do, like two prolonged fasts every week because somebody on the internet is telling me to fast. No. You want to see all the benefits that I speak of with fasting? Always return to a liberal diet where you're eating as much as you want to eat. I wanted to say eating like a fat pig, but you're eating clean and you're eating enough. And some days that could look like a very high calorie diet. But then and only then do you want to introduce low calorie days and prolonged fasts. So yes, I would still do it, but I would not do it at a very high frequency. You still want to see that scale weight go up. You still want to see the numbers creep up in the gym, which is very, very interesting to say the least. Is you're going to notice that when you're doing the fasts, even during a quote unquote bulk, I never recommend people do traditional bulks, but let's say you're hell bent on gaining 10, 15 pounds, 20 pounds. When you're eating a lot of food and you're throwing in these fasts, maybe once a week or once every other week or once every 3 weeks, you're going to notice that physical performance actually explodes with an infrequent insertion of fasting. You're not going to get weaker. You're not going to lose muscle. You're actually going to explode with that. Why? We talked about this earlier on this live, is that nutrient partitioning is greatly enhanced with fasting. So your body, instead of just processing foods and sending some of it to muscle and some of it to fat, is much more likely to partition those nutrients into muscle cells and to help with recovery and growth when you're doing some fasting. So yeah, I would be conservative with it. Maybe once every other week. Start there. Or if you want a higher frequency, to do maybe one 24-hour fast. Don't exceed the 24-hour mark. Do just one dinner to dinner fast every week and see how that works. All right, I gotta let you guys go, but I'll answer a couple more questions here real quick. When you do OMAD, do you eat one big meal like a plate of chicken and rice? It's one big meal, but it's not one plate of food. I cannot get enough calories in for the day on just one plate. And unless it's like a tray of food, like here at our foundation, I'm known to eat food like out of a tray sometimes. So there's rice, there's beans, there's like a half a chicken there. There might be, some vegetables there, and the whole tray might be 3,000 calories. So yeah, but it's more realistic and more likely for me to just eat 2 plates of whatever main meal. Let's say some rice and chicken, 2 plates of that, then maybe some dairy for additional protein, and then maybe some dessert, a pastry or something, just to fill up and get in enough nutrients for the day. So at the end of that meal, I might have clocked in at 200 grams of protein. Easy. That's very easy for me. I told you earlier, it's easy for me to eat 3,000 plus calories in one meal. But that's not one plate of food. That's just me eating for the duration of 1, 2, up to 3, 4 hours on occasion. 3,000 plus calories, 200 grams of protein sometimes a little less, sometimes even more than that. Very easy for me to do. But yeah, it's not just one plate of food. That would be impossible for me because I wouldn't be able to get in enough calories. Thoughts on OMAD for dinner, but adding a protein shake in the morning to help hit protein goals. Sure, sure. You can do that, brother. The benefit of OMAD more than anything, and I keep telling you guys this, is the mental clarity and the heightened energy that I have throughout the day. But you can get that by eating minimally throughout the day as well, by keeping your calories rock bottom, eating a couple pieces of fruit. I'm not a fan of consuming protein throughout the day personally when I'm doing OMAD because I don't feel like it has any additional benefit for me in terms of muscle retention, in terms of performance, as long as I eat enough at night. This is the big caveat. So if I'm not able to eat enough at night, I would have to get some calories, especially protein, and maybe some carbohydrates in earlier in the day. Again, OMAD is not our religion. OMAD is not the purpose of our lives. It's simply a tool. It's simply a strategy that we use to make our lives easier and to get to the goals that we have physically and in terms of our lifestyles, in terms of our professional goals as well. So you can do that, brother. You can. I recommend people who are on this live to look into the warrior diet. That is a more liberal way of doing OMAD, and great way of doing that. It's basically keeping your calories very, very low throughout the day, and then having one main meal at the end of the day, dinner time. But I would still recommend you read that book because it's very well written, very interesting read, and it gives you a handful of additional tactics that you can use whenever you run into some issues with this dieting approach. Sinful food, and how often do you eat those types of food, bro? Um, I guess you could say burgers, pizza. Even though I don't consider pizza junk food, we make pizza here at our pizzeria uh, from whole food ingredients. Yeah, you can argue with cheese being very fatty and pepperoni not being the best protein source. So that is that. But I don't consider it a junk food because it's high quality nutrients, it's freshly prepared. And same with burgers, bro. Unless I'm going out to eat a burger, I'm making them myself. And then it's high quality beef, it's a little bit of cheese, and some burger sauce that my wife makes, and some burger buns. That's not junk food. So I'm trying to think like, yeah, I will have like a cinnamon roll, which is pure trash. I'll have that on occasion. I love those. I will have a bowl of cereal a couple times a week, which is pure trash. And I do that, yeah, probably at this point, not even a couple days a week. It's rarely. And but that's pure trash, and I still get away with it. I will eat some cookies every now and then. That's my favorite dessert. But even then, it's still those foods still serve me because I need the calories, I need the energy, and yeah, we can argue day and night about these foods not being perfectly healthy, there being some additives that are detrimental to health, but I keep those foods very limited. And I keep that fasting frequency high, brother. And fasting really wipes the slate clean. The body can really hit the reset button every time you hit a 24-hour fast, you hit a 36, a 48. So I've learned for myself that there's no benefit for me, not physically, not mentally, not in terms of my lifestyle, not any benefit to going straight edge and just eating clean every single day. There's no benefit. I don't feel better. I don't look better. I don't perform better. So I choose to enjoy my life. And that entails the guilty pleasure, the rare guilty pleasure every now and then. So how often do I eat these things? It depends, brother. It depends. It's certainly not a staple in my diet. All right, brothers. This is it for me. I'm already tired of talking, bro. I've been talking for like over an hour here. My mouth is dry and I'm tired of speaking. But I hope this was of benefit to you. Don't just look at fasting as a hack or a shortcut solution to get lean, to get ripped. It can be used as such, but fasting is a lot more than that. And I'm telling you, if you use it responsibly, if you employ the tactics that I've given you in this live video, in the videos that I shot over the last 5 years, you're gonna notice that it's not just your body composition, it's not just your performance in the gym that benefits. It's you as an individual. It's you. It's your mind, brother. It's your discipline. It's your level of self-control. It's your level of happiness and contentment. It is your level of happiness and contentment that will benefit from regular fasting. So, I'm a huge fan. I don't see a scenario where I'll ever not fast. With that being said, and let me just finish with this. I always return to a liberal high-calorie diet. I do not restrict chronically and then fast. This is huge. And this is the number one mistake that I see with people who do regular fasts, who do OMAD, who do any kind of diet. They do not understand that if you habitually throttle your body, that's exactly what you're going to get. Lowered metabolic function, lower performance output, performance capacity, lower testosterone, lower quality of life across the board. So when you're fasting, when you're doing any kind of calorie control, any kind of dieting intervention, make sure that you always return to a liberal diet where you allow your body to recharge, refuel, and replenish on the right foods. This was a pleasure, brothers. Talk to you guys soon. I'm out.